Hi everybody, my name is Dennis and welcome back to another album review. Today we're reviewing the latest record from Latino trap rap stars J Balvin and Bad Bunny with their collaborative record entitled Oasis. Now, I'll say from the start, I am not a fan of either of these people very much at all. I think a lot of their beats tend to sound very generic, oftentimes sounding the same. They're very repetitive, and you kind of just hear one of their songs and you kind of sort of know what you get for all of them. So I really wasn't looking forward to this album exactly, but I was willing to give it a fair shot because you never know when someone will surprise you. And I have to say, I was actually really pleasantly surprised. These two actually work really well together and created a pretty enjoyable project. Even if it's not anything absolutely phenomenal, it's enjoyable enough that I was really surprised by it. Granted, it is fairly short. It only goes a little over 30 minutes long, and there's only 8 tracks. And the first 3 tracks I thought were just okay. The opening song, Mohaita, I did think the beat on this was kind of catchy, but it was also kind of forgettable. The lyrics were kind of scummy, they're kind of gross, they don't really have a lot of purpose behind them. I mean, it was an okay song overall, it just really failed to leave any sort of an impression on me, and I can really say the same for the following song, Yo Le Llego, where, again, it's just very typical for these two stars here, where they're singing about their money, they're singing about their girls, they're singing about their booties, they're just singing about all this stuff, and it just feels so typical, and sometimes I just wish they would push their comfort zone some into something that's much more, not even necessarily experimental, but just something that's more just different for them. I just wish they would try something new a lot of times. And probably the worst case of this is the third song, Cuidado por ahí, where it has easily the most annoying beat on the album, where even though the first 2 songs weren't great, they still had decently catchy beats that I could at least see the appeal to. Even if I did think their vocals at times were a bit less than ideal and the lyrics were very underwhelming. But the song Cuidado por ahí, where it has this really annoying, bombastic beat to it. Their vocals are kind of mediocre. Again, the lyrics are nothing. It's kind of just a frustrating song to listen to. However, after this point, I was surprised with how much I enjoyed literally every other song on here. The following song, Que Pretendes, has an absolutely phenomenal beat to it. It has this nice simplistic nature to it that's much different from the typical loud trap beats that they typically go for, and it was actually really fun. It was really catchy, it was really smooth even, and I actually really enjoyed it. Their vocals were also actually really good on here, and it showed the two very different vocals, where J Balvin tends to have these more younger sounding, higher pitched vocals, and they're nothing like chipmunk higher pitch, but just relatively lighter vocals, and kind of contrasting with Bad Bunny's deeper, more, I don't really want to say more unique, but he has a very unique delivery. It's much deeper, it's much more distinct, I would say, and these two are opposites in a ways vocally, but they work together in a really nice way, I would say, and this, I think, is the first case of them really showing that strong linkage between them vocally. And it works really well. I actually really enjoy that song. And the lyrics were still nothing amazing, but at least a bit better. It was more than just, oh girl, you have a nice booty, oh, let me take my pants off kind of stuff that they say normally, but actually goes more into the difficulties of relationships, where, granted, all of this and the next song on here have the woman as the primary villain of this, and there's not really a whole lot of solid reasoning behind it. It is kind of shaky, their story, and it doesn't really say a whole lot, but I was so glad to see them actually trying to put something lyrically in their music, having some sort of meaning behind it besides, oh girl, I like your butt. And again, there's definitely so much room to improve, but they could have done a lot worse with this, so I was really happy to see them actually trying something a little bit different from what they normally do. And like I was saying before, the next song, which kind of has a similar story to it, the song La Canción, actually has a really sad sound to it. I like how it deviates from that normal upbeat, funky kind of really light and in-your-face style that they normally go for. And this one is much deeper. It's much sadder. It's much more emotional. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. It was one of the more unique cuts on the album, where it was definitely not fun, but it was very emotional. And again, the lyrics definitely could have been more emotional to suit this sound to it, but the vocals and the instrumentals just carried so much sadness and weight to them that I actually really loved this song. The following song, Un Peso, again, is just a much more simple sound to it. It's not as loud, it's not as blaring, it's not as overproduced, it's not as dense, but it actually has a nice guitar riff to it with some decent chord progressions going throughout. And the feature on it of, I believe it's pronounced Marciano Cantero, was actually really good. He has a really unique voice on here that kind of has this nasally raspiness to it that, again, just contrasts with J Balvin and Bad Bunny's vocals in a really good way. It presents just a fresh feeling to the album that I think really did bring it together right here. Where he had a very, very good verse. Again, this song was one of the weaker ones lyrically. I do wish that there was just more to it in the lyrics, but purely sound-wise, I really did enjoy it quite a bit. Their vocals worked along with the guitar very nicely, especially Marciano's vocals. They just suited the simple guitar pattern, the chords that went with it, absolutely perfectly. I think he was an amazing feature on this song here, and he definitely improved it quite a bit. The following track, Odio, it actually had a really good chorus, or Odio means I hate, where the whole thing is about how you have this girl who like keeps trying to get back with the whoever's in question, but it's too late. I already hate you, and it does get kind of scummy at times where he's saying, "I hate you. I would still have sex with you, but I still hate you. I would do it out of anger," which it's scummy. It's kind of gross. It's unnecessary. Again, this is one of the ones where I think lyrically there's definitely a lot of room for improvement. However, the beat to it, the vocals to it are actually really strong. They're really catchy. They're really amazingly done. That chorus by Bad Bunny, when he does the chorus, he did it absolutely phenomenally, I have to say. I thought his vocals really matched the kind of distant pounding beat to it. That wasn't overly loud. It wasn't too dense, but it had a nice, just atmospheric weight to it. It was a very weighty beat. It wasn't anything light. It wasn't anything poppy. It wasn't anything really all that trap-oriented either. But it was just very heavy sounding. And it actually worked really well. And the verses on here I enjoyed quite a bit too. And it transitions pretty nicely into the concluding song, Como un Bebé, which featured Mr. Iazi. And his feature was fine. It didn't really strike me as much as Marciano's on the song Un Peso. However, this was still a very, very fun song. I thought this was the most fun song on the album. I really liked the upbeat style to it. And even though, again, they tend to take these upbeat tones a lot of time, it actually worked better on here than on most of their cuts, I think. It was a lot funkier. It was a lot more fun. It was a lot more catchy. I could find myself moving along with the song a lot better than some of the opening tracks on the album. It ended up being a really fun experience. So, overall, this album was really good. Again, it was not anything phenomenal. It's no groundbreaking piece of work. There were a few weak tracks, and even the better tracks had their issues, especially lyrically. I think lyrically is the big piece where they could really improve. But overall, I really enjoyed this album. It's short, it's sweet, but it's well done, and it's really entertaining. So, with all that being said, I'm feeling a light 7 on this. Be sure to check it out. It might surprise you like it surprised me. If you listen to this, be sure to tell me your thoughts on it. Tell me how wrong my opinion is, as always, and I'll see you in the next review.